So, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to another issue of our IDMonSite. I would like to introduce Miloš Mitrović, who's an editor for Danas Daily newspaper. And he has a lot of experience, not only in domestic affairs of Serbia, but he traveled to other countries because he is also writing on foreign affairs. And let's just start after these technical issues right away and talk about Serbia, which experienced a lot of political turmoil and difficulties in the last time. And I would maybe just start with one topic, which is the public unrest the whole world saw in Serbia taking place after the elections. And in different European countries, there was some kind of not quite right perception that these demonstrations and protests were they were not just only because of the re-emplacement of the COVID-19 measures, but also because of the political situation in the country and because of suspected voter rigged voting. Miloš, what is your perception on these protests? What is happening in Serbia right now?
Well, these protests, I would say, had two organizers, to say so. From one side, we had people who spontaneously went to the streets of Belgrade and some other cities in Serbia because they are for years dissatisfied because of their status in Serbian society, because of their disenfranchisement and so on.
Sorry, Miloš?
Yes?
Could you just maybe turn down a little bit the volume at your...
I thought it would be better if it's louder. Is it better now?
Yeah, I think so. Sorry.
So out of doubt, the majority of people in Serbia are not satisfied with their social status, with the political situation, political affairs in the country. So the most of the people who went to the streets following the elections were common people. Maybe the majority of them were young, but there were all classes and all layers of society. From the other side, we also had right-wing extremists, football hooligans, for whom, however, we very good know that they are controlled by the government. So in Belgrade were partly organized by the government in order to compromise these common people, to compromise opposition, to compromise all those who are against the government, and to present them as hooligans, as ultranationalists, and so on. So the protests were deeply justified. They were very reasonable from that standpoint, from the point that it was about common people. Have they failed? From one side, they did, because we do not have organized, coherent opposition in Serbia who can express in a political institution the will of the people, who mostly has boycotted the elections The boycott was, of course, legitimate choice because the precondition for regular elections, we didn't have them. As European Union says, for Belarus, for example, that elections were not neither fair nor free. The same is valid to say for Serbia, but situation is a bit different.
Yeah, like the main reason for the boycott was, as I understood it back then, that in this climate of intimidation and the lack of media freedom, no fair elections could take place. What we see right now is that there is no real opposition actually in the country, in the parliament anymore. What do you think will bring the future when it comes to the work of the opposition? Will they unite on the stronger on the, for example, this alliance for Serbia, or are the political differences in this very heterogenic alliance too strong, and will they fall apart?
It's really hard to say. By the way, Alliance for Serbia does not exist anymore. They have invented some new name, something like Unified Opposition of Serbia. They have changed these things so many times. They have so many sectarian fights inside these different groups, which are now out of the parliament. It's very bad situations for political, not for opposition in Serbia, but for the Serbian democracy, because we do not have normal demonstration, normal democracy. Yes, for one side we have the authoritarian government, but from the other side we have position for which we are not, for some parties, actually sure that they are really opposition. And then we have dominance inside this opposition, dominance of some nationalists, and most recently one can say that what their expectation is that they would sooner or later came to power with the support of the international community. So they are not actively look for support among the people. They are not trying for years to articulate some policy to mobilize the people. What they do is just simply wait international position to change. Maybe they are waiting Vučić to fail with Kosovo issue in terms that he would not fulfill expectations from the United States and European Union, which would then bring to his downfall, to say so. And in such scenario, they see an opportunity for them. I remember opposition during 90s, during Slobodan Milošević. I was then student, and opposition has been doing something all the time, organizing rallies, distributing leaflets through the city, organizing our media. We constantly have real opposition, which we can say with no doubt that they are opposition. What we now have is some groups, the most of people, the majority of people, I would say 90% of people in Serbia don't know even the names of these opposition parties. Of course, I don't want to degrade them to some extreme level. They have some quality people who are fighting very hard in revealing corruption scandals in Serbia, for example, who are putting attention on injustices which are taking place here. But we do not have a coherent opposition, and we do not have strength that we, for example, would have seen in Montenegro 4 days ago.
Yeah, it's very interesting that you mentioned the case of Montenegro, where a united opposition actually maybe will manage right now to remove Milo Đukanović from the government after 30 years. Is there some hope for Serbia with that example? Because when I recently also read in Danas, in your newspaper, that that Vučić is actually mainly attacking Dragan Đilas from the opposition. Is this because he is afraid of Đilas because of his financial means he has, like as the strongest leader, maybe in this case in the opposition? Or is it mainly that he makes out of him some kind of scapegoat for everything, like the main scapegoat, let's say?
I'm really not sure what would I say about Đilas. He appears to be a leader of opposition, but actually he's very quiet, and according to many interpretations, the reasons for this quietness, for this silence from his own side, personal side, lies in his personal unpopularity. Many people would say that Đilas is pretty unpleasant figure, non-charismatic, to say so. He was mayor of Belgrade. He was minister 10 years ago or something. That's one thing. The other is that he has very fine, to say so, cooperation with Vučić at the time when he has decided to left politics. In the meantime, I can agree that he has been presented as a scapegoat in Serbian media, in television, in tabloids, which are all, by the way, under control of Serbian Progressive Party led by Aleksandar Vučić, but does not necessarily mean that he is regarded as biggest foe of the ruling party. My opinion is that independent media, small local groups throughout Serbia, some mayors who recently have unfortunately lost elections under already mentioned conditions. These are the people which represent the biggest danger for Vučić, for his party. I'm really not sure about the opposition leader. I already mentioned this expectation from international community. Yes, several officials of, for example, Popular Party led by former Foreign Minister Vuk Jeremić have said yesterday, day before yesterday, that international community would change position towards Vučić, and this would be, according to their view, the remedy for all problems in Serbia. But as one of the leaders of opposition in Montenegro said, the point is not in changing the government, the point is in changing the system. Okay, we don't like Vučić, but tomorrow we will have some other people who will not change anything. This opposition is very bad. What Serbia lacks is civic movement, is some articulated voice of common people, maybe trade unions. But the lack of trade unions is a chronic disease in Serbia, the lack of effective trade unions. So we cannot make simple parallels with Belarus, which is still not over, with Montenegro, where is also still not over, but they did something. As we say in Serbia and Belarus, people has happened in an unprecedented manner. In Montenegro, it's a kind of revolution. Here we still have a dump. Močvara.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I mean, Močvara, yeah, the swamp, yeah. What is very interesting is also that you mentioned Vuk Jeremić, and as another figure of the opposition. And it is so obvious that these people are, let's say, they are not new, they are not fresh, they all have their history in the past. For example, as you said, Dragan Đilas was the mayor of Belgrade, and he was also a minister without portfolio. And under his work in the 2000s, there was this law for public broadcasting created, against which he demonstrated in the last year in front of the RTS building. So there is a crisis of legitimacy by the opposition. When you mentioned this small media outlets and so on, I was actually I witnessed when I was part of the new strategy group for media reform in the formed by the government of Serbia with civil society organizations and media houses while I worked for the Konrad Adenauer Foundation. Was that, for example, the repression small media outlets like Južni Vesti experienced, so that there's some kind of institutionalized repression via, for example, financial checkings and so on, alleged corruption and everything, that they stop working. Does this remind you on the time under Milošević, when this famous law on information by the back then Minister Aleksandar Vučić was created in '98?
It reminds, but I would unfortunately say that now it's even worse, because at that time we had some hope. Milošević was not he didn't oppress the media to that extent. He didn't oppress also opposition to that extent. Now we have situation in which ruling party cannot stand to have even one municipality in Serbia to be under control of opposition, and that also means for the media, for the local media, which are often in some connection with the local communities. So if Serbian Progressive Party rules in all municipalities in Serbia, that affects local media very, very much. So at the time of Milošević, was not that. He was clever. He was clever to say to representatives of the West, look, we have many media here in Serbia which are against me. We have opposition parties. Unlike him, Vučić cannot stand opposition. and that's the reason why he has created the opposition we have now. I cannot blame only him, of course. He is the part of the answer why the opposition in Serbia is like that, because we cannot say whose opposition leader cooperates with him and who is totally against him, if we can say so. It's different situation. We do not have, luckily, we do not have wars. We do not have so authoritarian system in term of killings. I don't know. As you know, several journalists have been killed in Serbia during Milošević. Today we do not have, or we do not have still killings, but we have very serious threats. We have burnings of the houses of the journalists. We have serious threats. We have detentions and so on. But yes, Vučić at least verbally says that our foreign policy is to join European Union, but so he must follow certain standards. But this joining European Union can happen in 5, in 10, or in 20 years. So it's very.
Yeah, that's there is like some there's some new expression, let's say, in political sciences. So when it comes to the analysis of Southeastern Europe, and this term is called Stabilocracy. So that the European Union, or let's say parts of the European Union, prefer to have political partners in countries like Serbia, or as well in Montenegro or in Northern Macedonia, that are only guaranteeing some kind of stability in terms of their foreign relations, so that there will no war break out, that they will keep very good investment possibilities for companies from the European Union and so on. But as long as this is guaranteed, they will not interfere in or complain about quality of democracy or freedom of media and so on in the countries. Would you say that this is like some kind of correct analysis of the phenomenon we see going on, or is it maybe too simple?
Yes, stabilocracy is not that new term. I think it's all that at least 5 years. It makes sense, yes, because stabilocracy in the countries of the Western Balkans guarantees that the interests of international community, that the interests of Western countries are protected. The governments are following the lines of Euro-Atlantic or only Euro integrations, therefore following nominally the standards of democracy, and under that umbrella, the interests of these countries and their companies in Serbia, in Montenegro, in Bosnia are safe. But as time is passing, one cannot say how long it will still take to accept this kind of a reality or false reality, because since months and years we have different reports, different analysis, official or the one which stem from non-governmental organizations, which define these societies, these governments in the region, especially in Serbia and Montenegro, as semi-democracies or something like, societies in which the state in which society is actually stolen by the political elite, political might, government. So this satisfaction with stabilocracy has its limits. One day they will have to invent something else or start changing things. I am not sure, for example, that European Union was satisfied that to say with the election results of Serbia. They were very aware that these elections were not normal elections, and they can use this legitimacy lack in their communication in their cooperation and operation with the government in Serbia. Things have been changed, but on the other side, we do not have this kind of alternative which exists in Montenegro.
Yeah, that's correct. Let me come back to one very interesting point you had, and which is like maybe also very important for our viewers to understand. Also, Western media outlets and policy analysis is always very fixated on the person of Aleksandar Vučić. So let's say like the person sorry, like as he is like the only perpetrator in this whole system, in political system in Serbia, and all the problems the country has. But it is also, in my opinion, not only him, but it is an entire system to which our people are also connected. Like, let's say, Nebojša Stefanović, the minister of inner affairs, and various others, like just as the recent scandals in Serbia have shown with this illicit weapons deals and so on going on. What do you think this whole nepotism and black market thing and financing for parties and so on from let's say not very clear sources, which did not only start under SNS, but also the previous DS-led government had this certain problems. What is the source that let's say makes Serbia or Serbian politics so vulnerable to such kind of illegal activities and clientelism and nepotism?
Well, yes, I agree that all these things have existed before Vučić. He did not. The history did not started with him, but it's now the peak of all these things. I also agree that media, not only in Serbia but in the West, are focused on Vučić. And that's understandable because Vučić is obsessed with media, because he's almost every day on television. He enjoys in publicity, and he enjoys even more in controlling all the media. In Serbia, for example, we do not have only all tabloids in Serbia are under control of Vučić, and not only tabloids. All daily papers, all newspapers are under the control of Vučić. Of course, he would say they are private. Yes, they are registered as a private enterprises, but his influence is obvious. On the other side, yes, we cannot put all the blame of Vučić. He is a strong man. He is the symbol of all wrongdoings which are happening in Serbia. But all his associates and all his people from his party and coalition partners should one day bear responsibility. The interesting thing is, you have mentioned the different scandals, corruption. There were plagiarized doctoral theses by interior, by finance minister, plagiarized faculty or MA thesis from Minister for Internal Affairs. We had a completely illegal dismantling of one part of Belgrade. We had many scandals for all these 8 years since Vučić is in power, and who has been brought to responsibility? Nobody. From the tiniest, to say so, clerk, which made something wrong in some municipality, to minister, to prime minister, they are all protected. Vučić don't want to sacrifice not even one single person to say, you screwed up, you should go to the court. This is not how things should function. For example, we had this, I don't know what was then, I cannot remember what was his official position at the time. He was suspected to cause a traffic accident in which one woman lost her life. Vučić has promised that something will be done. Nothing has been done. When
it was Babić. Yeah.
Babić, right? When in Belgrade, is Savamala here in my neighborhood was distracted in order destroyed. I'm sorry, in order to start building this investment from United Arab Emirates. He also said that complete idiots have did that completely illegally, that Siniša Mali, who was mayor at the time, will be marked as responsible, that maybe he will resign. But he was actually upgraded. He became finance minister. Later, it was revealed that that his PhD thesis was plagiarized, and nothing happens. He does not want to sacrifice not a single man.
Yeah, and combined to that, the absence of rule of law, of course. I mean, Aleksandar Vučić so often meddled around with ongoing legal procedures. He commented on different cases of alleged corruption and so on, and by that also had some influence on it. But he's the state president. I mean, he's not actually any figure that has the legal competence to influence courts and so on. But this shows like how much the checks and balances and separation of different branches of power in Serbia is damaged. How long will it take, in your opinion, that let's say even this whole entire time of him and the Serbian Progressive Party in power gets to an end? What do you think? How long will it take for the country to recover from that? And what would be actually the right steps for recovering?
It would probably sound awful, but I really cannot avoid to say that actually separation of power in Serbia almost does not exist. We have a parliament which is totally under control of one party and of one man. We have the government which is, according to constitution, the most important political institution in Serbia, led by the Prime Minister Ana Brnabić, who calls President Vučić, whose constitutional powers are limited and ceremonial, she calls him boss. I don't know, I have to ask boss. New parliament and new government is still not formed following the elections, but it seems that Ana Brnabić will keep her position. And recently she said that she cannot talk anything about the government, about who will be prime minister, who will be in the government. This is the question for the boss, for Vučić. How will Serbia recover? How will Serbia survive this? The only way comes from grassroots, comes from ordinary people. So since that we do not have a normal opposition, that the institutions are compromised, the only way is some kind of direct democracy, civic initiatives, not to say revolution, because we do not want blood in Serbia. But this is my opinion, that people of Serbia, through different initiatives must change the situation in Serbia. We should not expect this from European Union, from United States. That's completely wrong way, because that will keep the system, not maybe because strangers, foreigners want to keep a situation which we have now, but it would simply be inertia. Nothing is changing. Some people are changed. They are not in the power anymore. We have, as you said, some old faces, and that's it. That's not solution. That's not the change of system. That's not healthy democracy. I don't have problems with some old faces. We cannot every time look for some new people, but people who are old and not capable to change, not to change their behavior, and who expect everything to get on the plate from the West, that's not the solution. Or from the Russia, but I think that that West is here more influential, out of doubt.
Of course. Yes. One of the questions, actually, which is also very, very interesting, I guess, is why is the current government, or let's say, no, sorry, I'm thinking too much like in terms of functioning democracy, but why is the boss Aleksandar Vučić keeping the formation of the new government so much in secret? Some people say that it has something to do with the Kosovo issue, and while others say so that he will wait until negotiations with about the Kosovo issue are over, and while others say that we will see like some major changes within some figures, let's say, in the government. How do you actually see this secrecy of the boss?
Well, undoubtedly is Kosovo issue very important for him. We will see what will happen in Washington in a couple of days, where representatives of Serbia, Vučić, and the representative of Kosovo with people from White House will discuss Kosovo. Nobody expects some dramatic change. Vučić gave to Serbian tabloids one interesting statement. He said, namely, if Trump comes to our meeting and says that we will have to give Kosovo independence, I will left the room or something like that. I will not want to meet with Trump. It's very serious. It's an existential question for Vučić. I believe it's easy it's not easy. From one side, I understand him when he says that those people who live in the Middle Ages and who pretend like in Kosovo live only Serbs, that they can continue to dream that's not that simple. Kosovo still plays very important, maybe the crucial role in his relations with the West, and not only with the West, also with Russia, who sometimes seems to be a bigger protector of Kosovo than Serbian government. Expectations are obvious. Expectations from the West that this disputed status should be finally resolved. I don't know about Washington. Washington meeting. I really do not expect something revolutionary. And as you know, we have these two processes, one led by European Union, which focuses on status, which focuses on politics, and this Washington, which is allegedly limited only to economy. Maybe the key moment comes in November, following the elections in United States, because now we have different approaches of European Union, Berlin among all, and Washington. I believe that there are great expectations in Europe that Joe Biden will be elected for the next president, and this could change many things in international politics, and Kosovo is only one tiny part of that.
Yeah, actually, when there was a quite vital discussion also in the Serbian public when it came to this proposal by the US of the exchange of territories, for example, at the north of Kosovo comes to Serbia, and the Preševo Valley comes to Kosovo, after which a recognition would take place maybe by the Serbian government. Actually, Berlin quite opposed that proposal, and they said no, this is no solution, and we should not draw new frontiers. This would be a very bad example for all of Europe and so on. What is your opinion about this exchange of territory idea? Was it maybe a very pragmatic stance, or is it a very dangerous idea?
It's a very mysterious thing, because we never knew what territories were actually at the table. Yes, the most logical, it's about the north of Kosovo and the so-called south of Serbia. And at the same time, we had a very contradictory statements from our officials. From one side, Vučić has been saying, we want something to gain and we don't want to lose everything. So that sounded like willingness to accept the swap of the territories. On the other side, we have the statements of Vučić and his associates who say no, change of territories is not acceptable. So, but it makes sense because it's about negotiation. It's not something invented in Serbia. In different kind of negotiations throughout the world in history, we had circumstances in which different ideas have been circulated. Of course, Vučić wants to he doesn't want to be remembered as some kind of traitor who gave up from Kosovo. And that's the point of his statement that we don't want to lose everything. And which is even more important is that he does not want to lose the power. What should we, Serbia, got back in for Kosovo? It's very, I don't know. In Serbian media, we have these speculations about Republic of Srpska or Republika Srpska, as some in the West would say. Okay, you take Kosovo, we will take part of Bosnia and Herzegovina, but it's totally unserious, and that would bring only misery to the people in this region. These kind of things. What we need is out of doubt economic progress, investments, but also social justice. We have now investments. Foreign ambassadors in Serbia are very satisfied when they talk about how much their companies have been investing in Serbia, how much people are hired in these companies. But we have the lack of this social moment. The only recipe for some kind of prosperity here is, yes, of course, strong economy, but at the same time, some kind of social justice. But that sounds like utopia, communism, I don't know what, and nobody actually cares about such ideas. I think that people in both Serbia and Kosovo and in the other parts of the Western Balkans are really tired with nationalism, with every kind of fanaticism. What they want is normal life, but the wills of common people and the reality of politics and the reality of international politics and business is something else. The fact was that people here, Serbia and Montenegro.
Just when we keep in mind that the average salary in Serbia is like around 400 euro.
Mm. Yes, it's pretty bad. The only period in history when the majority of people here were really satisfied is the period of socialism. Not only in Serbia. And we talk about different regional initiatives for regional cooperation. We have this Berlin process, Paris process. I don't know, but actually we cannot see real cooperation among these countries. We cannot see the change of rhetorics of of the political elites in these countries. For example, it was interesting to see what has been happening in Croatia following the beginning of August and the anniversary of Operation Storm. From one side, it was very encouraging that the representative of Serbian community and Serbian party became the vice president of Croatian government. It's very encouraging, for example, that Croatian war veteran minister has visited the village in which Serbian civilians have been killed by Croatian forces following the storm in 1995. Very good things, very good ceremonies from one side, but from the other side, we could also hear Zoran Milanović, Croatian president, on this ceremony in Krin in Croatia, that this storm operation was perfectly clear, that all things which have been discussed in the International Court for the former Yugoslavia about possible war crimes were just rubbish. This kind of rhetoric is actually profounding these divisions among our countries. Not to mention Serbia, we have ministers which are in charge to blame Croatia for everything, to blame Montenegro for everything. We will say what will be if a new government in Montenegro is formed. Okay, Berlin process, it's really fine. Paris process, Macron's visit to Serbia, very, very fine. But we have the lack of this some kind of cohesion of these countries, and because of this lack of cohesion, I'm afraid that we are doomed to be some kind of colonies, nothing else. It will be better than Mauritania, maybe, or Mali, Chad, in Africa. We are lucky to live in Europe, but
yeah, that brings me to some final questions. Two questions. What do you think? Will Milo Đukanović in Montenegro just accept that he is defeated and to step down, or is he actually planning something? Because this guy was so much fixated onto his power and in his wish to rule and to have power, that it seems like unimaginable that he just will step down and accept a defeat.
I think that Đukanović is still in some state of shock. He really did not expect this result of elections. On election day or before, one day before, he said that, or maybe not he, but representatives of his party, that they expect triumph, that they could create government alone or according to much less good scenario with some traditional partners, but yes, the shock has occurred, something completely different, and I'm not sure if Đukanović is still aware about that. From this story about deep support for his party, he changed the story, saying from legitimacy, from expected great legitimacy, he switched to mathematics. Legitimacy is not that important anymore. We have 35 or I don't know, how many, 30, I think, members of parliament. We have traditional partners, and we need only one more member of parliament to create majority, and nothing is over. But it would be legal but not legitimate government of Montenegro, because people have clearly said that they are fed up with his Democratic Party of socialists. They won about 1/3, or I don't know, maybe a little bit more. They have the most of the highest number of MPs, but opposition altogether have more. So it's clear that people in Montenegro want change. And and he has said that he did not recognize the defeat directly, but he said something like, "We will see these parties with their majority, what they have." I think that he's ready for all scenarios. He's an experienced politician and statesman. He has this ability to recognize the reality, and he still does not have to step down, because his term expires, I think, in 2 or 3 years. But this is for sure a blow for him. This is one important no from the people of Montenegro directed to him. So we will see. It would be pretty unnatural to try to insist on keeping things as usual.
Yeah.
We will see. I think that people are in the still ruling party, that they are afraid. Not all of them have reasons to be afraid. From one side, opposition leaders have said that they will give their hand of cooperation to everybody. They don't want divisions. They don't want polarization. On the other hand, those who were corrupted, those who were suspected from wrongdoings, they must go to the court, and this will have a profound, if implemented, this will have profound consequences in Montenegro, and I hope only that it would be for the benefit of Montenegrin people. Đukanović wants to pretend now everything like it came from the Belgrade. Very interesting thing. 8 years, so since Vučić came to power, he didn't say one ugly or bad word against Vučić. Last night, he blamed Vučić for what was happening in Montenegro. To me, it sounded like loser.
Yeah, that's true. It sounds like a real loser move, let's say. On the other hand, I don't want to ask you, like,
is a winner.
Maybe the final question for our IDMonSite with you. Is it maybe legitimate that when we say that all the accomplished changes, or that the democratic turn in 5th of October 2000, that all what was accomplished back then is lost or reverted by political figures that who were in power during the time of Milošević. I mean, Vučić was his information minister from the Serbian Radical Party, which was the predecessor, or let's say mother party of the SNS.
Yes, I agree that this heritage of October 5th is, to say so, annihilated. We are nominally still democracy. Good thing is that we do not have wars. Good thing is that we are not under some kind of international sanctions. That makes difference in comparison with the 90s. But what many have been argued since the 6th October of 2000 was that 6th October actually never came to Serbia. That opposition who has defeated Milošević has missed the chance to start to profoundly change the society. I'm afraid that this what we are witnessing now is these are reflections of these mistakes from 20 years ago, and we can only hope that change of power in Serbia will not be violent, but we actually have bigger bullies in power than we used to have 20 years ago. So it would be very, very difficult. I think that Vučić it would be more difficult to him to give up from power than it was the case with Milošević.
Yeah, this is a very, very good statement for the end of our of this episode. And let me thank you very much, Miloš, for your contribution, for your deep insights in current Serbian politics and politics of the region. And I hope that we can welcome you to another episode of IDMonSite on the further developments on the Western Balkans. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lucas. I would be glad to join you again, of course.